guys, welcome back to Mojo and the Bro with Mike and Jameis. And today we are actually going to be talking about the modernization of gaming, whether it's through consoles or through PC gaming. And this is going to be in the span of about 15 years. Right now, I am currently recording this so that it can be used for one of my projects in my class. And yeah, we're just going to do our best. And both Jameis and I are very passionate about this topic and thought that it would be a pretty good one to talk about. So
yeah, and we both have a pretty good knowledge of the gaming industry and more particular how the hardware and that goes into the consoles and the computers and stuff like that. I work in an IT department. Mike is a video editor.
right, yeah. So I mean, they aren't exactly the same, but again, we're both pretty interested and heavily invested in technology.
Yeah, and I've personally built multiple computers and I've been to console gaming most of my life. So
Right, and for me, console gaming actually took off when I started playing the GameCube back when I want to say about like 6 years old even. How about you, Jameis?
I started on the PlayStation 1.
The original
The
PlayStation.
original PlayStation.
Wow.
I was actually, it could be even said farther back than that. My grandparents owned a Nintendo 64 that I played a lot on. But mostly the PlayStation 1. I remember being at my dad's, hooking up, putting it on channel 3.
Yeah, dude,
video input
one.
channel.
Yeah, for me it was always, especially when we got our Wii, we had to switch over to component.
Yeah.
Back with the red, white, and yellow
Right.
cords.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. On those old box TVs.
Yeah, those AV cords. Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, and now gaming's come so far. All the way from there to now we're just using just single cords, USB-C even just for
video inputs. USB-C for video input,
yeah.
So yeah, I had a PlayStation 1. I then upgraded to a PlayStation 2 that my dad bought me. That was it was the Fat Boys, the big one. I still have it today, actually. It is in my closet in the bag. I don't have any of the cords to it. Like, I don't have the power cord and I don't have the video cord. I don't have a single controller, or a single video game, actually. I just have the console.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm saving it for when it's worth millions of dollars, but
Eventually, right? It'll be put in museums.
like nobody owns a PlayStation. Pull it out of a bag.
The original PlayStation, right?
Well, this is a PlayStation 2. I don't have the original anymore.
Gotcha. Now, you got really heavily invested in PC gaming.
Yeah, so
pretty recently.
I had a neighbor who lived across the street, not quite next door neighbor, but still a neighbor in the area, he worked for Blizzard Entertainment video gaming company. He was like a tech support guy or something for the company. And he decided he was going to I did him a favor. His dog was like running into the street, and I grabbed his dog before it ran into a very busy street. And as a hey, thanks for helping me out and whatever, he was like, hey, I want to help you out and give you a video game from Blizzard Entertainment. He's like, these are the games we have out right now. At the time, Blizzard didn't have a huge selection of video games. So it was essentially Diablo 3, World of Warcraft, or StarCraft, I think is what they...
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with some of those game titles. Well, so once you did switch over to console gaming, what was just the first noticeable differences other than it being the fact that
I don't know,
you were no longer on a console?
So I still had a console, so I still played video games on a console. Because I still had to build my game library at the time. All I owned on PC was Diablo 3.
Right.
Which also at the time was not available on console. Like they were an exclusively video game PC company. So there wasn't exactly a comparison to make at the time. It was I played like my normal first person shooter games, Call of Duty and everything. I played those on controller on a console. And then the other game, like Diablo 3, which is not a massive multiplayer, but it's an RPG game.
Okay. Yeah.
That I think it's called a MOBA. Is that what?
Yeah. I've heard of MOBAs.
So I don't remember what it stands for. Whatever. So Diablo 3, I played on the keyboard and mouse on the computer. So
Gotcha. So playing Diablo 3, it was the keyboard and mouse aspect that really helped you just feel like more immersed in the game.
yeah, because when you're the controller, you can just kind of like laissez-faire, like sit back and whatever. I'm not really paying attention playing the game. When you're playing keyboard and mouse, you have to be like in it, and I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be like heavily involved, like actively engaged, and so with that, I know that after that, you've since upgraded.
So yeah, no.
Yours.
After that, I now own tons of PC games. I would say I own more PC games than I own console games because
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I actually don't even really own a console anymore. Like, with the exception of my PlayStation 2 that's in a bag and my Xbox 360 that we set up the other day that I played once.
Right.
So I do still have my Xbox 360. I love that console because it was the last console I ever owned, but it still is got nostalgia memories there. So
Right. Yeah, and for me, after I mean, for most of my life, I had just Nintendo systems and whatnot, and it wasn't until I ended up buying my own Xbox, the Xbox One, and I've had that for gosh, like 7 years now. So I'm definitely in need of an upgrade, especially with some of these rumored leaks coming out about the Series X and both the PlayStation 5 as well. And now they've been officially announced
Yeah.
that like what their actual specs are going to be, and man, are they going to just completely revolutionize console gaming. As far as like we've known it to be. So
yeah, the new console generation is definitely stepping up their game and trying to compete on a more realistic level with the PC gaming market, and that shows with the specs of the new systems. They really have come pretty close to what a gaming PC is capable of as far as the specs wise goes. It's still not really comparable. If you spend $3,000 on a gaming PC, you're obviously going to have a better system than if you're going to buy, say, the rumored $500,
$600
on the
Xbox
the
Series
Xbox
X,
Series X.
or even a PlayStation as well.
Yeah.
Now,
So
with that, I mean, with getting a PC, it's also more customizable for sure.
yeah, it's definitely built for you. Like, especially if you're building it yourself, like it's built to your own taste.
Your own specifications.
And a big thing in building a gaming PC is the personality of the PC. I would like to say it's kind of like the colors. Your RGB. Mike likes to say that my computer looks like there's a disco in there, and
Yeah, right.
sometimes at night if I leave my PC on or something, it's like I'm trying to sleep. I don't need.
Right. Why is it just turning on randomly? Yeah. So, yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. In which, like, consoles, I think that the reason so many consoles have been pushed forward and just made this giant leap to get better and try to compete with at least mid-ranged
Yeah, so
console.
they're trying to
PCs.
basically say if you're not gonna spend $1,000 on a PC, don't do it and buy an
at least
Xbox
get
or
like
buy
an
a
Xbox
PlayStation
or
5.
the PS5.
And so yeah, they're definitely trying to corner the mid-range market.
Right. And I know, like, I got some of the specs here. Just comparing it to
The previous generation.
yeah, the previous generation even. So compared to the Xbox One here, just the memory alone, from the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X is then doubled if you end up getting your hands on an Xbox Series X when it releases this
Yeah.
holiday
So
season.
the Xbox One has 8 GB of RAM in the memory units in its thing, and even if you don't really know what that is, the Xbox Series X has 16.
Right.
16 gigabytes of RAM.
I mean, 16 is a bigger number than 8. You can just do the math.
Yeah.
But
so essentially what memory does is it takes the load off of the CPU and GPU essentially a little bit. You have your system storage, which is your hard drive that you put all your files on, but if you can't immediately load onto off of your storage. So you have to have that buffer where so it preloads it onto the RAM, and then so it's just basically how much you can preload before.
Yeah, for sure. And along with that, even just it's the computing power between the two. I mean, it's a massive difference. And the reason I'm comparing the release of the Xbox One compared to the Series X that's going to be released, because that's where the giant leap is. Yeah, sure, there have been consoles in between, like the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S. Same with PlayStation, right? In between the PS4 Pro and the PS3, they also had the PS4 as well. So the next leap in this generation is naturally going to be a much bigger improvement.
Yeah.
Than
I mean, if you look
console.
at the jump between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One X, or at least even the Xbox One versus the Xbox 360, the 360 had 512 megabytes of RAM.
I have the Xbox One pulled up right here.
I don't know how much RAM that had, but
yeah, so that had
probably 4.
It's looking at, yep, yeah, 4. And I mean, the other really great opportunity that PC gamers have is that customizability, right? In which that might happen as well with consoles, but we're not even completely sure about that. Who knows what the future holds on that?
Yeah, you don't have a whole lot of RGB consoles. You maybe some people have customized the console to have like an RGB strip or something somewhere, but from out of the box, you're not gonna. They all look the same,
right?
So that's the issue. That's where the cheaper price comes from, because they're manufactured in mass amounts, so they can bring down the price a little bit.
Right, you're not gonna get that sort of personality almost with your PC, right?
So yeah, there's definitely an argument for both sides, and saying, hey, do you want this thing that puts out that's a lot cheaper, probably, and that puts out similar power, not quite as much, but still comparable. But you're gonna have the same thing as the next guy, or do you want something that you've put the work into that looks really cool,
and plays
great, that can basically you can say is yours,
Right.
So
now that's just comparing consoles with PCs, but if we're comparing consoles with consoles, honestly, what it boils down to is price. And I know, so Ryan McCaffrey, who's with IGN, he was interviewing Phil Spencer, who's the vice executive president of Xbox, and honestly, what Phil had said was kind of shocking to the at least the console gamers out there, in which he stated that
he's pretty okay with the price of,
right,
like he's happy with it, and he thinks that it'll go over weather. They haven't actually announced the price for either the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5.
Right.
I honestly think both companies are just like waiting for the other one to release the price.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so many people have just come out and said that they're just in a standoff, the two companies right now, because the big leading factor of
good old Mexican standoff.
I mean, the big leading factor of why the PS4 sold way more copies of that
Yeah,
system
their domination of the last
was because
generation.
the price, and the price of the PS4 was $100 less than the Xbox. Even if the Xbox was more powerful, I would even go as far as to say that more people would end up buying the PS4 if it's $100 cheaper.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I mean,
what it
'cause
comes down to in marketing is just getting your consumers to go for the better deal. So
yeah, honestly though, I think PS5 has made a lot of mistakes in this new generation, and one of their biggest mistakes was their reveal of the PlayStation 5.
right,
It was like this 45-minute long boring presentation by the head of the PlayStation 5 release, or not the really, just the head of the PlayStation 5 project. And this man should not have been giving a presentation because it was
it was just dry. It's so dry.
it was
right?
all about
So-
tech specs and stuff 90% of people don't understand, and like no humor in the conversation. Just, this is a sound, and you got some graphic processing units here, and yeah, so that's our system, and we're like,
Excuse me, what? Yeah, and especially for console gamers, I know for me, like I'm not as educated on the specifications of what goes
like
into
what that mean, like what a lot of those things mean.
a
Yeah,
PC.
when you're
Right,
buying
a lot of those are terms that you would use if you're familiar with building your own PC. With gaming on a PC.
But you know what's
right?
funny is, until this console generation's like war on like release specs, I had never heard the word teraflop in my life. I was like,
Yeah, no, that is pretty crazy.
what? Like, this has 12,000 teraflops.
Right, and it's like, what does that even mean, right? So we're all just trying to search, like, what does this even
What does
mean for the
teraflop
next
mean?
console? What's a teraflop, right? So,
And
Yeah.
then they're like, yeah, the last generation had 6 teraflops. You're like,
excuse me? Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see the companies battle. I know personally for me, I've pretty much already made up my mind. I know that I definitely am going to end up upgrading to
despite my best
Series
efforts.
X. Right. I mean, James has been trying to convince me pretty hard on getting a PC, and
Mainly so I can play video games with him.
all the
and
time, not just not just the games that are cross-platform.
Just every game.
So, but honestly, if I could get a PC for
The price.
the price of, let's just say $500, 600 even, if I could get a PC for like $600 with the computing power of how far the consoles, or specifically the Xbox Series X, has come, that'd be great. And I'd love to go for a PC and build it myself and just look into the specifications of that.
Yeah, I looked into the specifications of the new console generations versus how much it costs to build a comparable PC, and I estimated probably about $1,000. It's gotta
Right.
be at least.
Yeah, and
so
$1,000 would be a fair price. And
my
but
my,
honestly,
my PC
again, it comes down to that price a lot.
my PC, I would say, is probably worth about $1,200, $1,300, something
Till
around.
you end up getting a new graphics card, hopefully, right?
I really want to, but I shouldn't.
That'd be cool, man.
We got to get that Minecraft on 1080p.
Yeah, man.
You wish I was joking.
I do wish. I think our audience wishes that you were joking.
I've always
Think-
hated Minecraft, but now that I realized it actually can look realistic, I'm like, hey.
He's like, hey, this isn't too bad, right?
I just hated
It's always
the.
been the graphics. You're
Yeah.
definitely the kind of gamer who's like, it has to have good graphics. Otherwise,
And that's
I'm not
why
gonna
I
play
switched
it.
to PC, because
Right. But even
that's what matters.
But so then
me.
comparing graphics from old games to now, man, have they stepped up? Just comparing.
I was playing The Witcher the other day, and I was just like,
Right, but even comparing, let's say, the Resident Evil series, right? So Resident Evil 2 and the original when it came out for Resident Evil 2. Man, the camera angles, like what were the developers thinking? But compared to
Yeah. It's just so much smoother in the gameplay than like if you can't see what's in front of you that you're shooting at, how are you supposed to like really hit it? I actually never played the original Resident Evil 2. I've just seen gameplay of it, and I was just like, there's no way. There is no way.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, we could both say that it's definitely been optimized now for how far the consoles have come now, how far gaming in general, on from PCs all the way down to consoles, and how far all the systems have just come and been optimized for so many different types of games. I mean, yeah, so honestly, just seeing how far both consoles and PCs have come, even today, and these last 15 years have just been awesome. I know, like for me and for Jameis as well, growing up playing video games to just playing on high end systems right now, and I hope to be playing on a high end system by this holiday season as well. So.
Yeah, and I think you probably end up will end up being that way. I I definitely enjoy the curve that has happened in my lifetime of like I said, I started on a PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1. I moved up to a PlayStation 2 and then I bought an Xbox 360. It was kind of a weird flip. Um but I didn't really want the PlayStation 3. It's kind of stupid. I honestly didn't like the menu.
Oh, gotcha.
That's like
Now
I
that's
didn't
what a lot
like
of
their
people have
menu.
said, is that the menu of the Xbox, like, is still somewhat complicated, but compared to that of the PlayStation, it's way more organized.
Well, the original PlayStation 2, you put the game in, you saw that little load screen of like, and it was always fun to guess, like, is it gonna get through? Is it gonna get through? And then, but that's another hardware failure. There, it's like you never knew whether it was gonna make it through that start screen, but you knew if it did, you were good.
Right, exactly.
And I think that was like basically due to scratch discs or something like that. But nowadays you don't run into that. You you don't even have to put a disc in anymore. But
Right. And now what it honestly also just boils down to, if you're looking for consoles at least, is do you want to, play with your friends? And I know you and I both do that a lot. And so if so, then go with Xbox for sure.
I'm pretty much exclusively a social gamer.
Yeah.
Like I
mean, we're both pretty social people. I mean, we started this podcast partially
because
we're for my class, but also because we just wanted to do it for fun.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of talking last semester, or when we first moved in together about like, hey, we have these weird late night conversations. Let's start a podcast. And then he got in this class, and he's like, "Yo, I have to make a podcast."
Yeah, and I'm like, "Hey, let's start it now, right?" So, yeah, it's cool. But yeah.
All right, I think that's about the amount of time we have for today. So we will catch you guys next time.
Yeah. All right. See ya.